Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post. What would happen if making cartoons cost 90% less? We'd make a lot more cartoons, a lot more people would have access to making those cartoons, a lot of people that did that work in a more traditional method other than AI would lose that work, and we'd probably see an explosion in creativity. Because where you wouldn't be able to make an animated project in the past, now because it's so much less money to make, you can actually do that. There's an AI animated studio called Toonstar with a hit YouTube show called Stephen and Parker, and they're getting 30 million viewers weekly. In addition to producing the cartoon through AI, they're also able to get immediate feedback by seeing what people watch and what they don't watch on parts of the YouTube cartoon. So if people skip over a lot of it, they know what parts people didn't really like or really weren't that interested in. So between creative development, production efficiency, time efficiency, because it's like a lot faster to produce this way, feedback and interaction with people that are actually viewing and consuming the content, and then the ability to make changes to suit what people are interested in is something you can't replicate without technology. AI is everywhere now, and it's going to have a major impact on animation. From the New York Times, what if making cartoons becomes 90% cheaper? AI has yet to upend Hollywood, but it's started to make big inroads in animation. Just a few years ago, lip-syncing a minute of animation could take up to 4 hours. 4 hours for 1 minute. An animator would listen to an audio track and laboriously adjust character mounts frame by frame. But using AI, a 1-minute scene in this new studio took 15 minutes for the AI tool to sync, including time spent by an artist to refine a few spots by hand. In any production method, you really can't compare 15 minutes to 4 hours. Toonstar, the startup behind Stephen and Parker, uses AI throughout the production process, from honing storylines to generating imagery to dubbing dialogue for overseas audiences, because they can automatically translate into another language and then affect it visually, the animation, so you could actually see a change visually if that was even necessary. Quote, by leaning into the technology, we can make full episodes 80% faster and 90% cheaper than industry norms, said John Adanasio, a Toonstar founder. Quote, this is how you build the next generation of hot intellectual property, he said. Doing something fast and cheap does not make it a hot property. It does make you able to iterate more, though, and come out with something and see if people like it, and if they like it, great, and if they don't like it, you can make something else. And if the cost is low, it makes your break-even less. And when you're making new things, break-even is what you really want to think about. You want to make sure it's good, but you don't want to spend a lot of money on something and not be aware of like, well, what do we need to generate out of revenue from this thing to be able to cover our costs? So it's super creative and it's super cost effective. A lot of money is going to go into this because they're going to get a great return on investment. AI entrepreneurs love to pontificate about how AI is going to transform the process of developing and producing movies and television shows. In the ears of Hollywood traditionalists, AI enthusiasts can morph into cartoon pirates arriving to plunder. Those writers, visual effects specialists, and sound editors who slow everything down and make everything so expensive with their precious creativity, bots can replace most of them. So far, though, in Hollywood, not much has changed. The biggest studios continue to run in much the same way that they did before OpenAI and other artificial intelligence technology burst onto the scene. Human brains are still much better at creating art than virtual ones. Disney, Universal, Warner Brothers, and the like are also trying to sort through major concerns about how generative AI software is built, how copyright holders are compensated, and how unions might react. But one thing has become clear. No part of the entertainment business has more to lose and gain from AI than animation. The $420 billion global animation industry, including movies, television, cartoons, games, and anime, has long been dominated by computer-generated imagery. Walt Disney Animation hasn't released a hand-drawn film since 2011. In other words, unlike much of Hollywood, animation companies are not technophobic. Even with computers, however, the process of making an animated movie or even a cartoon remains extraordinarily expensive, requiring squadrons of artists, animators, graphic designers, 3D modelers, and other craftspeople. Studios have a big incentive to find a more efficient way, and AI can already do many of those things far faster with far fewer people. Jeff Katzenberg, a former chairman of Walt Disney Studios and co-founder of DreamWorks Animation, has predicted that by next year it will take only about 50 people to make a major animated movie, down from 500 a decade ago. If he were founding DreamWorks today, Mr. Katzenberg said of AI on a recent episode of the podcast The Speed of Culture that he would be jumping into it hook, line, and sinker. And that's exactly what this startup Toonstar has done. And the AI-assisted production process it's adopted offers a glimpse of where the giants might be headed. Mr. Atanasio and Toonstar's other founder, Louisa Huang, started their careers at Analog Studios. He joined DreamWorks Animation's marketing team in 2001, the year Shrek became a sensation. She got hired in Disney's strategic planning department around the same time. They later worked at Warner Brothers. They are defectors from the studio system. Quote, Hollywood avoids change to the point of paralysis. Mr. Atanasio said, we couldn't take it anymore. Ms. Huang and Atanasio, both MBAs, left Warner Brothers in early 2015. Quote, it was the year after Saturday morning cartoons ended. The last broadcast network airing them gave up because kids had started to live on YouTube, according to Ms. Huang. Quote, and we were like, wait, what's happening to cartoons? They're just going to die? That question led to another one. What would Hanna-Barbera, one of the animation greats, look like today? Starting in the late 1950s, William Hanna and Joseph Barbera built a cartoon studio by changing the animation process to fit the transformational technology of the time, broadcast TV. Small screens needed more content than big ones, a string of episodes to fill a weekly time slot, and budgets for early television shows were tiny. The economics of the medium were being worked out on the fly. Quote, TV needed a much faster production schedule at a fraction of the cost, Ms. Huang said. Hanna-Barbera figured out how to make do with more rudimentary animation, cutting in half the number of original frames per second. The company also reused art from episode to episode, reducing the number of new drawings needed for a segment to around 2,000 from 14,000. Changing a production process, no matter how you do it, can be really innovative and can make a massive difference in terms of cost and also perceived value. I was a kid. I used to be one of those. I like the Hanna-Barbera cartoons. They're a classic studio. And if you can't get the budget to do 14,000 frames and you can get it done with 2,000 frames, that's risky. But if the kids like it, it's good. AI is just the next chapter in all that. And there's room for anyone to use AI creatively. You just have to learn how to use the tools and see what you like to do and what you're good at doing. Surprisingly, Hanna-Barbera's moves resulted in a new golden age of animation. Hanna-Barbera hits included the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Scooby-Doo, Super Friends, and the Smurfs, all of which continue to make money through reruns and merchandising to this day. That was a long time ago. Why is it that TV shows from, say, 1960 are not as likely to be re-merchandised and re-shown as animated cartoons from that day? It may be because with art, it's expressive. It's not literal. So it's easier to relate to it if it's not as specific, if it's a little abstract. Which is why things that were done, 50, 60 years ago or whatever could still be consumed today and enjoyed today and worth money today. Toonstar, founded in 2015 in a warehouse in downtown Los Angeles, would try to rethink animated content and production for the YouTube age. Quote, Hollywood mostly sat on its hands while distribution got upended through streaming, according to Mr. Atanasio. We didn't want to watch the same thing get repeated with emergent content creation technology. Ms. Huang and Mr. Atanasio made choice for the messaging app Snapchat, which became a Toonstar investor. There was a detour into blockchain-powered content. They dabbled in creating virtual influencers on an app with lip-sync videos that later morphed into TikTok and raised $5 million from venture firms like Graycroft. By 2021, they'd built an animation assembly line that was fast enough to make content for a social media audience. But one major choke point remained. Toonstar artists were having to scramble to create all the necessary drawings. Put simply, AI still hadn't advanced far enough to do the heavy lifting on image creation. A more powerful breed of AI that could generate text and images in response to short prompts, generative AI, arrived in 2022. OpenAI, for instance, rolled out ChatGPT and DALL-E, which let people generate photorealistic images simply by describing what they wanted to see. Toonstar used open-source AI infrastructure to build its own image generator. Mr. Atanasio and Ms. Huang named it Ink and Pixel, a riff on Disney's department where a battalion of inkers and painters prepared cells, transparent sheets on which images are drawn or painted and then photographed, which in and of itself was technology. Animated cells were technology. This is just a new kind of technology. It's different, but it's new. And creative industries ultimately usually do accept new technologies. New technologies allow for new kinds of production that save money, go faster, but also create a medium that otherwise couldn't exist. Like animation could not exist without technology. We haven't had animation for like 1,000 years. It's still relatively new. Even just the interactive nature of AI being able to get you feedback from the people who are actually watching what you're producing, and the ability to maybe even customize your content in a way that could have never been done before. For example, creating a character and having a character interact directly with people who are fans of the character. We recently saw something like this with Darth Vader. He said some things that maybe he ought not to have said. That has since been corrected. But it's always going to be technology that's going to facilitate creative mediums. Quote, I get emotional because it was like, wow, it really works. Mr. Atanasio said when asked to recall his reaction when Ink and Pixel began to come together. Just then, however, a massive backlash against generative AI swept through Hollywood. Creative workers view the technology as a threat to their very existence. More than 170,000 actors and writers spent much of 2023 on strike, in part to demand AI protections from studios. Though ultimately, studios and unions don't control the industry. They're a big part of the industry, but there are independent people producing things inside of the industry. And when you have the ability to make a cartoon at 90% less of the cost, that is not something that independent creators are going to look away from, or independent investors. And the marketplace will be the ones that decide what they like or what they don't like, what they will buy and what they won't buy, what they will watch and not watch. And particularly with a platform like YouTube, where ultimately if you produce something people are really interested in, it is going to get a lot of views. The marketplace will decide. Another reason creative people instantly hated the new technology, OpenAI and other tech companies train their software with data scraped from the internet, often without compensating creators. And there are lawsuits over this, and the lawsuits will ultimately decide where copyright stands. Can an artist own their own creation? Of course, an artist should be able to own their own work. Can they own their own style? Was their style influenced by other human artists? How much of the new creative work was from the artist, and how much of it might have been assisted by AI or some other technology to create new work? Up until generative AI, anything that an artist used to help create their work, any software programs, were always considered to be incidental to the work, like a pencil to an artist. A computer would be a pencil to an artist. The pencil doesn't get the credit. And copyrights are not for tools. Copyrights are for human beings, or for corporations that own the rights to those human beings' work. It's a complicated question, and things will likely change over time. But even a human artist is taking influences from other people's copyrighted works. It's a normal thing to do, to see an artist that you like and to emulate that artist's work. That's what human beings do. But if an AI does it, what does that mean? I don't know. Let the courts figure it out. Mr. Atanasio publicly pushed back at the time. He said this, stop worrying so much about AI taking jobs away, and embrace the ways that technology could propel movie making forward. If costs are lower, he said, studios will start taking creative risks again. He's right, because there'll be an ability to take a risk on something that financially will be less expensive to produce, and they will try. One commenter did not agree, though. He said this, die AI scum, which is important to note that a good comment in the right place can really make an impact. At least it made it into this New York Times article, and it also made it into my video. Toonstar relies on what's known as a copyright-clean generative AI engine, which means Ink and Pixel has been trained exclusively on commissioned artwork rather than on data from the open internet and elsewhere. Put another way, Ink and Pixel allows an infinite number of Stephen and Parker images to be generated from a few hundred originals, which means they are copying their work, but it is their work to copy to generate new images from because they own that. Quote, it has to be artists leading the technology instead of the other way around, Ms. Wang said. Toonstar's watchword is HITL, which she calls humans in the loop. The production cycle for a Stephen and Parker episode typically starts with a video call on Thursday. Parker James, a 24-year-old TikTok star and musician who created the series with Toonstar, joins from his home in Texas. A writer and Toonstar's head of production, who also writes scripts, also attend. Together they flesh out an episode of several minutes in length that will get uploaded to YouTube by the end of the following week, which is incredibly fast. Quote, sometimes my ideas aren't fully formed, Mr. James said. Toonstar really sits and takes time to develop something that everyone's happy with. Scripts are never generated in whole or part with AI, according to Toonstar. But the company does use an AI analytics tool called Spot to inform stories. Spot combs the viewer data from previous episodes to see what worked and what didn't. What snippets did people rewatch? If they left before the end, what was happening in the story at the time? It turns out, according to Spot, that Stephen and Parker viewers are met on Murphy the family dog. That surprised us because who doesn't like a cute dog, Miss Wang said. Scripts are written on Fridays. The one for the 3-minute and 30-second pirate episode took 2 hours to hammer out, which is pretty fast even for a short script. By Monday, AI-assisted pre-production begins. Toonstar computers analyze the script to see what cartoon images will be needed to be created, what doesn't already exist in the ink and pixel system from past episodes. For example, the pirate in this episode. A generative concept artist then uses ink and pixel to produce the needed images. To create the pirate, prompts like red headband, brown boots, and scruffy beard were typed into the system. Instantly, the AI engine kicked out several options, each in the art style of Stephen and Parker, and crucially, with the correct proportions in relation to existing characters. A designer selects one option and tweaks it by hand to make the pirate look more comical. He was given a peg leg, for example. It took about 20 minutes. Quote, this part is very subjective, which is why artists and designers matter, according to Ms. Wang. Our goal is for AI to get it 70% there. Holly Phillips, Toonstar's lead designer, likened AI-generated characters to mannequins and costumes. Quote, AI just gives you the base, she said. It's our job as artists to add a personality, a visual personality by adding elements. Maybe this pirate is going to be a bit evil, or maybe he's going to be a little wacky and funny. Those are my decisions as an artist. A robot didn't do that. Next, an animator uses proprietary software to build out scenes. Dialogue, recorded starting when scripts are finalized, though sometimes even earlier, is automatically synced to character lips using an AI tool. An AI program is also used to add sound effects, like a skateboard skidding down a curb. Quote, traditionally, that person would have to go into a sound library and hunt and peck, Ms. Wang said. Toonstar also uses AI wizardry from a startup called 11 Labs to instantly dub character voices into Spanish, Portuguese, and Japanese to distribute in other countries via YouTube. By Thursday, the process starts all over again. By no means is Toonstar the fanciest AI startup in Hollywood. It's dwarfed by Runway, which raised $300 million to expand its AI studio and recently released a 6-minute pilot for a potential animated series for adults. Asteria, founded in the fall, has already likened itself to the Pixar of AI. An early Asteria release, The Oddbirds Show, arrived online in April. Episodes run between 30 and 60 seconds. It's really amazing with social media platforms that do video like YouTube and TikTok. You could actually just decide, I want to do a 30-second per episode series or a 3-minute per episode series. Whatever you want to do, whatever works for you, you can find some kind of an audience for. And if it's really good, it will do well and you will turn it into something. Not every time, but a lot of the times. It's really democratizing distribution in a way that really otherwise could never have been done. And that's not necessarily because of AI, but it is because of technological solutions. Distribution, creativity, production methods, production cost in every industry of every kind are constantly being updated and revolutionized. This is not something to not pay attention to. Stephen and Parker content, whether shorts, new episodes, or compilations of older snippets, has now been arriving steadily for more than 2 years. The series has racked up 7.5 billion lifetime views, according to Toonstar. Mr. Antanasio declined to provide detailed financial information on the series, except to say Toonstar is profitable. Toonstar and Mr. James are now working to build a bigger business around the cartoon. They have a deal with Random House for multiple graphic novels based on the characters. There also has been interest from streaming services about turning Stephen and Parker into a traditional cartoon series. In the fall, Toonstar plans to unveil a slate of new animated shows, each made in partnership with an established YouTube or TikTok creator. Quote, because animation has historically been very expensive and taken a long time to do, a lot of talent has been kept out, particularly young talent, Mr. Atanasio said. We don't think animation should be a private club. And with AI, he continued, it's not going to be. These are massive, creative, strategic changes that are happening. And the more we know about it, the more we can be part of it if this is what we want to do. If you're interested in animation, stories, characters, Learn more about it because everyone has some kind of an opportunity here as the technology keeps improving and the distribution just keeps getting better. You can't ask for something better than YouTube or TikTok to be able to distribute a new cartoon. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.